Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are joining it from. So let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Voices of Community. I'm 𝐒𝐫𝐢𝐣𝐞𝐬𝐡 𝐃𝐞𝐛, Senior Developer Relations Engineer at Lamtest, and I'm thrilled to be your host today. We are back after a short break following Spartan Summit 2025 last month, and it feels great to continue this series where we bring together the greatest minds in software testing. To make this session more interactive, let's start by warming up our virtual spaces, and you can just drop by a message in the chat and tell us where you're joining from. Well, I am joining from Bangalore in India. Hi, Philip from Florida. I can see Pune, Texas, Bangkok, Berlin, Gurgaon. I hope the timing of this session is not very uncomfortable to you. We have a lot of people joining from India, Argentina, Canada. Awesome. It's always inspiring to see how our global community truly is. Now let's talk about the session today. We all know that what gets measured gets improved. But are we tracking the right metrics? Are our numbers truly representing and helping us build better software? Or are they just vanity stats? That's exactly what we will explore today. And who better to guide us today than Brijesh Deb, Principal Consultant at Infosys, and of course, one of our most amazing Spartan. With over 25 years of experience spanning in software testing, AI, agile leadership, and engineering excellence, Brijesh has worked across industries like automotive, avionics, space, agriculture, and energy, making him the perfect person to help us unlock the real power of engineering metrics. Hi, Brijesh. Welcome to Voices of Community. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, 𝐻𝐻𝐻. Thank you so much. I hope all of you are doing well.
Awesome. Before we dive in, just a quick reminder, this session is being recorded. So if you want to browse it later, it will be available on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A section, and we will have a dedicated Q&A section in the end. And we'll try to cover as many questions as possible. Without further ado, let's welcome Brijesh Deb and let him take us to today's session. Brijesh, over to you.
All right. Namaste, everyone. I am Brijesh Deb, and like 𝐻𝐻𝐻 mentioned, I have a little bit of experience in the world of testing and software engineering, so to speak. So we are going to be discussing metrics today. And 𝐻𝐻𝐻, I will need you to be my companion for a few minutes.
Sure.
Initially. So let me first share my screen. Please tell me if you're able to see it. Are you able to see my screen, 𝐻𝐻𝐻?
Yes, I'm able to see your screen.
Okay. All right. So we're going to be talking about metrics magic and how metrics help in transforming software delivery with some data-driven insights, right? So 𝐻𝐻𝐻, a question for you. Okay, which is your favorite brand of shoes?
I love some Nike.
Nike. And why do you love Nike so much?
The comfort, the standard quality of shoes are very comfortable and reliable.
Okay, comfort and the standard quality. Now, the word quality, I wanted you to mention that word and you did, is very subjective. Okay, so what you like, I may not like, right? And similarly, what can be of good quality to me need not be of good quality to you. So it is very subjective. So when somebody says that a project or a product is of good quality, it may mean differently to everybody. So there should be a way of measuring that quality or the quality aspects, right? So we have to try and bring in some objectivity in terms of defining what quality is for each one of us. And it can mean differently for everybody, for the stakeholders, for developers, for testers, for people who are using the product. Okay, so it will mean differently, but we have to standardize something so that we have a shared goal in front of us. And for us who are working in the field of software, we have to have some standardized guidelines. So there are some standardized guidelines. So during the course of this presentation, I'm going to be taking an example of one of the products that I had worked on previously. And due to non-disclosure reasons, I have had to change the name of the product. So please don't ask me which product it was or for which client it was. I won't be able to disclose that. But for the sake of this discussion, let's call that product TrendyMart, shopping website, okay, where we all go and we all look for products. So let's take that example and let's just move on. So, at TrendyMart, there was one disaster. And what happened was the checkout functionality, it crashed for 3 days, 3 whole days. And it was a total disaster. The business suddenly stopped. Nothing was working out. Engineers were amused what was happening. And what was discovered that they were not tracking any metrics. They did not know what to look for. And, it was time to fix things. So a late decision of involving some metrics was taken. So what does metrics do for us? It removes guesswork. It helps us in spotlighting flaws, and it is a wizard for every tester. Every tester can keep a tab on what is going on in the product. How is it shaping up in terms of quality? Having said that, when we talk about metrics, the essential ingredients of any metrics are reliability, which is a steady software, seamless software. Whenever somebody is using it, they don't have to look around for stuff. It comes easily to them. It is very intuitive. Then the next one is performance. You want your websites to load up fast, and speed is something that every user is delighted with. And of course, satisfaction. Sparsh, he mentioned that they are very comfortable. So that is what satisfaction means to Sparsh. And of course, when we are talking about software, we are obviously talking about security. How protected is the software from any threats? Now, these are the core ingredients of metrics that I think are essential. Of course, there can be more based on your context. So this is not an exhaustive set, but these are the 4 main ingredients according to me, right? Now, TrendyMart had a bit of a lot of problems rather. So, the failure rate at which TrendyMart was failing in terms of its deliveries, whether it was scheduled delivery of features, whether it was, upkeep and maintenance, the failure rate was around 25%, which is huge, which means you're losing a quarter of your time trying to figure out what is going on. But with metrics, it became 5%. And imagine the software, when it goes down, it had a recovery time of 4.5 hours, which is a huge thing when it comes to shopping websites. Now, Amazon is quite popular all over the world. It is probably the most widely used retail shopping website. Imagine Amazon going down for 4.5 hours for maintenance, for fixing bugs, and for bringing it back. It would be a disaster, right? So keeping that in mind, let's see what could be done, or what did we do in case of TrendyMart, and how did it change things. Now, after all the discussions with the stakeholders, with the managers, with product owners, what was decided was that, the page load should be under 2 seconds. Within 2 seconds, every page should load. Then it was decided that we would track the response times of the website. We would also look for continuous improvement. That is, we had to monitor at every step. We had to look for optimization, and we have to improve consistently. And as a result of all this, TrendyMart suddenly became the topmost seller. Okay, so now another aspect to it is, of course, like I said, you are looking at the reliability metrics. So you are looking for 0 vulnerabilities. You're not looking for any security loopholes. You are reducing your time to put in those patches. And then it was continuously, scanning for any vulnerabilities that were happening in place. So another aspect in terms of satisfaction is that, the net promoter score of TrendyMart used to be 30. That is, the customers were quite unhappy with it. Now, net promoter score is somewhere where your users promote your business, either through word of mouth or on social media. They react and respond, and they promote your business. And the score that was tracked initially was at 30. Now, when we put in these metrics, the result was the score immediately ramped up to 70, which is, in my opinion, not all that great. But moving from 30 to 70 just by implementing metrics within a few weeks is a great turnaround. And I think it is something that teams need to realize, that how much their users can actually help them in promoting their business. Now, oftentimes what happens is, when we are building products, when users are using it and they are not talking about it, generally the satisfaction levels are quite low, and they are not able to get the desired results. We rely too much on our advertising and marketing teams, and we keep pushing them that you guys are not doing a good job, we are not getting more business. But then when the net promoter score goes up, when there is a lot of word of mouth happening, when people are engaging more with your social media content that you're using for promotion, then it is a good sign. So, for us, waving that magic wand, using the metrics, it worked out really, really well. Now, what did we actually do? We took a look around and we said that, a framework is already built for us. There are various metrics that are available already for us, where, there are frameworks that are built which we could take and which we could use to our advantage. So instead of building everything from scratch, we said, okay, let's look at the 4 standard set of metrics that are available and see what is the best that can work for us, and pick some of them up and see how we can turn things around. While there was another team which was focused on getting context relevant metrics for us, which was very essential for the product perspective. But since we had these wide choices available for us, we said, okay, this is the first go-to place where we would go to. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to 4 of the standardized engineering metrics that are already available to us. And I'm going to guide you through those and see how those are helpful. Now, those 4 are, of course, DORA, SPACE, Agile Flow, and Value Stream metrics. Now, DORA comes from the DevOps Research Academy, which is essentially talking about your deployment metrics. Okay, SPACE focuses on the productivity of your developers. Agile Flow focuses on the efficiency of your agile processes. And Value Stream focuses on your end-to-end delivery. Now, if you look closely, these 4 aspects that you're talking about, which is deployment, developer productivity, processes, and end-to-end delivery, are essential components for any software. So these frameworks in combination with each other will give you a nice framework that will take you through in your metrics journey. Let's first talk about DORA. DORA, like I said, is focusing on your deployments. So, it looks at how often do you ship. That is your deployment frequency. It talks about lead time for changes. That is any changes that you make. That is, whether you're fixing a bug or implementing a new feature, how much is the time that you're actually spending on those changes to bring them from inception to production. So when you're writing code, when you push it to production, how fast you can do that. The next one is change failure rate. Now, whenever there is a change or whenever there is something that is new being implemented, there is a tendency that change will not work for you. So how frequent is that failure that is occurring is something which is very critical to measure. If you can reduce it to a number which is manageable, and if you can bring it down within limits, then you've taken one step towards success. And of course, you have to measure how much time you need to recover from any disaster that happens. That is the time to restore your services, right? So these are the 4 basic steps that DORA helps you with to establish confidence in your deployments. Now, the next one is SPACE. And SPACE, it stands for satisfaction, performance, activity, communication, and efficiency, of course. So that is what SPACE stands for. So, but there are 4 aspects to it where we are talking about satisfaction. And when we're talking about satisfaction, we are essentially looking at how happy your developers are. And when I say developers, in the Agile world, developers is a term which is commonly used for every team member who is contributing. So it could be a developer, it could be a tester. Okay, they are all developers in the Agile world. So there is no special category such as testers, which is a bit of a bummer because of me coming from a testing background. But I guess that's okay because we are all part of a team and we are focused on the same goal. So we are looking at measuring how satisfied the developers are doing what they are doing. We are also looking at the efficiency of their work, which indicates their performance. We are also looking at how good or how effective or how meaningful their output is. So we are tracking the activity that they're doing. If there is something which is not meaningful enough, if the work they're doing is redundant, then we try to get rid of them. And then the most important aspect is that every team member has to talk to each other, has to collaborate with each other. It doesn't happen that, it's not a single person who's doing the job. So it is not a one-man glory kind of a thing. It is always about collaboration. And collaboration works when there is good communication happening. So we keep track of communication as well through this. Now, the other one, when we are talking about Agile, now Agile, as you know, has got different, ways of delivering your Agile projects. Agile is an umbrella term which has different processes, different ways of following. Somebody could follow Scrum, somebody could do Kanban, somebody could do Lean, somebody could do XP, and still they could be Agile. But what are the 4 aspects within Agile projects that you can actually track and improve your results? One is the cycle time, which is the start to finish speed. How much does one cycle take? How much time does one cycle take? Then, one aspect that stands out in Agile projects is work in progress. Now, work in progress, specifically talking, if you have been working on Kanban, you will hear that a lot. But I think it is important to understand the value of work in progress in any framework that you apply, whether it is Scrum, Kanban, Lean, it doesn't matter. As long as if you keep a track on the amount of work that is in progress, then you're able to keep track on your product delivery as well. If the work in progress goes out of hand, then you are definitely losing a lot of time. Then, of course, there is predictability. So when you're working on something, you know what's coming up, what's next. Then you will be able to plan your steps better. And when you're able to plan your steps better, you're able to organize things much better and you're able to deliver faster. And of course, throughput. Throughput is nothing but measuring the completed work from end to end. How much time have you taken to deliver a piece of work? And then, of course, we talk about value stream metrics, which is very important from a perspective of teams doing DevOps things. So, for example, things like defect density, which is bugs per unit code, or measuring flow efficiency, whether any piece of work is giving you a value add versus how much time you are waiting to get that value add as a piece of result. Okay, that is something. Then process time, that is actual work duration. Now, when we talk about process time, you have to streamline your processes so much so that there is enough efficiency in the system. What happens in a lot of cases is that There is a lot of dependency that is happening. You're waiting for somebody else to finish a piece of work, and then you pick it up from there and then you continue. Okay. Or there are other factors that are affecting the process. There may be bottlenecks, such as certain approvals need to come for certain features, whether you're waiting on the customer to give you an approval, or whether your stakeholders are giving their decision on time or not. So like that, the actual work done that needs, it gets affected. And that is where you try to measure the entire process time. And of course, lead time is something that you need to measure. And lead time is something that is common between the value stream metrics and the DORA metrics. Okay, so lead time is very essential as to how much time do you need in terms of converting your idea to delivery, right? So having said this, these are the 4 basic metrics. Now, going back to TrendyMart, our candidate for today's discussion, we saw that the failure rate was around 25%. The fixed time was around 4 hours. The processes were chaotic, and there was absolutely no visibility of what's going to happen in future. I'm sure that a lot of you would have seen things like that there is a very high failure rate happening in your projects. The fixes are taking a lot of time. Okay, the processes are non-existent, or even if there are some processes, they are very chaotic. There is no clarity. And of course, you don't know what is the next thing that is going to happen. This is a very common problem across projects, across products, across various sectors in the industry. Okay, there was a situation. I mean, I'm going away from TrendyMart for an example, for a brief moment, and I want to talk about an airline website that we were working on. You know what? That had similar problems. That project that we were working on had a failure rate of 40%. It is huge when you talk about any product. The defects, when they came, the average turnaround time was around 7 hours. Okay, some got fixed really quickly, but others took an awful lot of time, pushing the average to as high as 7 hours. The process here, at least in case of TrendyMart, it was chaotic, but in that case, it was non-existent. There was no standardized process. And as a result, there was absolutely zero visibility. So when I was working on these slides, it made me think of this, and I said, oh, there is so much similarity, which means that it doesn't matter what your sector is. It doesn't matter what your nature of business that you're catering to is. The problems are similar. So these are certain talking points which you need to be fixing, right? So how did the whole metrics thing cast a turnaround? Basically, what we did was, by tinkering around with the metrics, by finding out what are the bottlenecks, by spotting the problems, we were able to move our current development process towards the left, which is we shifted left in a lot of things where we involved testers early in the discussion. We got them early on board. We said, okay, now you are going to be a part of anything and everything that happens right from the inception, right from the time the requirements are being translated from the user needs. That's when you get involved. And even when the product owner was listing down the requirements in the backlog, we made sure that there was a tester who was involved in the whole process. The tester would question that if the requirement is complete, if it is accurate enough, and most importantly, can it actually be tested? Okay, because you start the process of baking in testability right up front. Okay, and then when the developers started coding and when they started with their unit testing, they would also involve the tester, saying, okay, you know what, this is what we are going to be covering in our unit tests. Are you okay with these, or do you have any suggestions? Testers would give suggestions on unit tests. Now, some of you may be surprised that, oh, you know what, unit tests are a developer's job. I don't need to care so much. But that's not true. testers can also contribute. And that is why it is important that you understand the architecture of your system. That is why it is important that you know in what language they are coding. If you're able to work with them, share your set of ideas, think about the risks early, then you're able to contribute. Then when it came to testing, the testers went up to the developers, to the architects, to the business analysts, to the various stakeholders and said, okay, you know what? We need to come up with a list of risks that you foresee in your areas. And through our tests, we are going to try and mitigate those risks. So the risk analysis exercises were conducted early. And this is how we got an early start when it came to testing. And then when it came to automation, it became even more effective. We were able to do a clear-cut feasibility study, feasibility analysis, where we were able to list out that these are the features that are going to be automated. These are the features which are going to be automated next, and so on and so forth. Okay, and what that allowed us to do is we were having a clarity on what features needed more time to get automated, what features could be automated fast, and what were the features which were not the candidates for automation. It is very important to find this out early. Sometimes, rather a lot of times, what happens is you begin your journey and then you start to look back. Oh, maybe I should not have automated this. Oh, maybe this was a piece of software that, or the piece of the product that we should have automated early. But these questions, it is important to address them upfront. And by doing that entire shifting left exercise, we were able to focus on automation. And at every step, what we did was to try and capture the metrics. We picked up a set of metrics from the entire set of metrics that I just shared with you. Some from DORA, some from SPACE, some from Agile Flow, some from your value stream metrics. We made a combination, discussed this with every team member. We thought, okay, these are the ones that are most useful for us. Alongside, we said, okay, based on our context, based on our situation, we need to get some other metrics which are outside the set of these 4 metrics. We captured those and we came up with our own metrics framework. And that metrics framework kept everybody on the same page. And this is how it was really helpful for us to move forward. See what happened as a result of applying metrics. The failure rate came down. The net promoter score went up. The time to fix the bugs went drastically low. This is the effect of implementing those metrics. So, having said all this, speaking so much about metrics and measurements and things like that, I want to talk about some of the challenges that metrics bring us. Okay. Most common one is an overload of metrics. A lot of data is being collected in the name of collecting metrics. There are too many numbers that are being tracked. There are too many parameters that are being looked into. But the thing is all that necessary? Do we need all of that? Or the purpose of collecting metrics itself is getting, choked? There is decision paralysis. There is something called analysis paralysis. There's too much of analysis that is happening and the focus is lost. This is a very common problem that happens across organizations. As a result, what is happening is the data collection is fragmented. Incomplete data is collected, inconsistent data is gathered. And like Sparsh mentioned in his introduction, a lot of times there are a lot of vanity metrics that is happening. Now, these are metrics that look very impressive, that make us all look very good. And everybody's like, oh, wow, you guys have done a great job. Your business goals are going to be achieved. But the reality is something different. And here I want to talk about something which initially I was thinking not to talk about, but I think it is very important that in any metrics discussion, this is spoken. A lot of times what happens is that the people who are collecting metrics, they want that, the management or the stakeholders give them a pat on the back. So a lot of times the metrics are gamed. There are a lot of, the metrics are rigged in a lot of places. Numbers are randomized. There are arbitrary numbers that are put which are not true, which is an absolutely disastrous thing to do. Initially, you might get the appreciation from your managers, from your stakeholders, if you game the metrics, but in the long run, it is an absolute disaster. And I want to throw a word of caution here. Never, ever game the metrics. If your metrics is making you look bad, it is okay, because the metrics are telling you that there is something which is wrong. So focus on fixing that problem rather than running away from it. I mean, there is a tendency of putting things under the carpet and saying, oh, you know what? This is where we are, and this is something that we need to be dealing with. And something, if that is the situation, then go out and say that instead of putting things under the carpet and saying, hey, no, there is no problem. I want to give an example here. I was consulting for a company which makes software for autonomous cars, self-driving cars. They were making software, and there was a big problem. They had released about 8 versions of their software, and when I took a look at their data, when I looked at their Jira dashboard one day, and I found something remarkable. After 8 releases, they had more than 2,000 bugs which were not fixed, out of which 37% of them were high severity. What immediately struck me was that although these people had monopoly and they could still dominate the business in the market, there were small players who were very close to catching them. And it is very easy for somebody to outdo your business if they catch up with you. If you have so many bugs and if you're not fixing them. And when I removed the carpet, when all of this came out, the director of operations was actually surprised that all of this was happening. And this was clearly the result of the metrics being gamed. And this is why it is very important for us to talk about this. That is why I'm spending a lot of time talking about it. Okay. And most importantly, talking about the challenges, there is a gap that happens in the actions that need to be taken. You collect metrics with the purpose of improving your software, not with the purpose of hiding stuff under the carpet, right? So you have to focus on collecting the right metrics. So how do you go about it? What should be your metric collection framework? There are 4 aspects, again, you need to look at. Number 1 is your business impact. What metrics could impact my business positively? What metrics will provide me enough points to work on actionability? What metrics we are able to track seamlessly, easily? Okay, and what metrics are relevant to our business goals? These are the 4 important aspects of any metric selection framework, right? And when you're presenting your metrics, there are simple practices. Keep them very simple. Use very, very simple language in your metrics. Make them visually appealing as much as you can. There are a lot of software that can help you. If you've gone and explored in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, there are charts which give you a lot of flexibility. All the software that you have today have beautiful visualizations that are there that can help you, and present them as visually appealing to the person that you are sharing these metrics with, so that they are able to understand them easily. And most importantly is that they should meet your context. That is the most important thing. And they should show you the trends. Whether you're improving, whether you're going downhill, they should give you a clear picture, right? So these are some of the practices. I wanted to say best practices, but then I realized that, best practice is only contextual. What is a best practice according to me need not be a best practice according to you. So I removed the word best from that slide title. What is important to build a metrics-driven culture? Most importantly, your leadership has to buy that. Your leadership needs to be on board. They need to understand that, okay, these are the metrics which are important for us to implement, and these will give us a positive direction. The metrics should be done in such a way that that is psychologically safe enough. There is no blame game that is happening as a result of the metrics. They are only focused on improvement and that you learn continuously from those metrics. And most importantly, everybody has shared ownership. Okay? If you are succeeding, it is everybody's success. If you're failing, it is everybody's failure, right? So here's a tip for you. You need to start really small when you're collecting metrics. Don't go for the entire set. Think of what is relevant to you. Start collecting 2-3 metrics initially to begin with, see how it is going, see how everybody is feeling around it, measure it consistently. Okay, don't do it for like 2 weeks and then you forget about it. And then a month later, you realize, oh my God, I have not done it for so many weeks. Don't do that. Okay, measure it consistently. If you start a process where you're measuring the metrics continuously, you iterate only to improve. And most importantly, whenever you see that there is a little bit of success, okay, something has improved, for example, your lead time has reduced, celebrate that success. It is very important that everybody understand the value that these metrics are bringing in, right? Now, here is a secret that I'm sharing with you. If you scan this QR code correctly, you will open this cheat sheet. This cheat sheet gives you the metrics that you can pick up and use it right from today. Okay, so if you look here in this sheet, it talks about DORA metrics. I've given you the formula and the measurement, and I've given you examples of that. Similarly, for SPACE, I've given you the metric, formula and measurement, and the example for it. For the Agile flow metrics, the value stream metrics, and I have also given as a bonus feature quality specific metrics, okay, which could be very helpful to you. And if you look very closely to these quality specific metrics, I have not used anything which is related to test case count or defect count. That is on purpose. It is because counting test cases or counting your defects may not be very useful to you in the long run. They may give you short-term success, they may give you short-term ideas, but in the long run, they will not be very helpful. Yes, unless you are tracking your number of defects in production, that could be a very important metric to capture actually. Okay, if you have too many production bugs, then you want to keep a tab on that. That's when you go and measure, okay, how many defects have I got in production? How many of them are showstoppers? How many of them have high severity? Okay, and so on and so forth. So I will go back to the QR code once again. You can scan it here again, and you go to that file. Go to the Google Drive or Google Doc, and you can get the cheat sheet for yourself. Also, I will, at the end of this presentation, share this entire slide set with Sparsh, and you can get in touch with him and get a copy of the same. Well, that, my friends, brings me to the end of the presentation. I write a little bit on Medium and on LinkedIn, so this is where you can reach me. And I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Brijesh, for making it explain so easily. I think a lot of people might take it back and try to implement this within the organization.
Well, yeah, Sparsh, I want to say this here that, you know, I have tried not to be technical here. Okay, I have tried not to use buzzwords here because we are already surrounded with too many buzzwords, and with AI coming in, the number has only increased. Somebody once told me that if you're able to explain things like you can explain to a 5-year-old, then you have done your job well. So I always keep that in mind and try to keep the language very simple. If there are any further questions, if you want to have deeper discussions, please get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to help you. And of course, the Lambda test community is there. Okay, there are many experts in the Lambda test community, so who can obviously help you.
Thanks, Brijesh. There are a couple of questions. I will also urge if anybody have any questions, please add them in the Q&A section. Meanwhile, I think we can take a couple of them. So the first question is, how often should teams revisit and redefine the metrics they track?
That's a very good question. The frequency of revisiting your metrics should be completely aligned with your business goal. If you think that your metrics is not adding value towards your business goal, then it is time for you to revisit it. Okay, always put a priority on meeting your business goals. Okay, like I said, metrics can sometimes create an absolute overload. You might end up collecting too much or too little. So always think that, is this metrics that I'm collecting, is this metric that I'm collecting giving me enough value? Okay, am I still aligned to my business goal? If not, revisit, please. I hope I've answered that question.
I think it makes sense. There are two questions on a similar line. So, how organizations balance the use of metrics to drive performance without creating unnecessary pressure or micromanagement within the organization?
Well, if you collect the right metrics, there should not be any need for pressurizing somebody. So choosing the right metrics, I mean, I gave you a framework. Let me go back to that slide. Yeah, if you stick to this framework where you are putting your business impact, your actionability, measurability, and relevance as your reasons to pick any particular metrics, then I think you are on the right track. Okay, if you are deviating away, then you are creating unnecessary pressure in yourself. So stick to this framework. This has worked for me. This has worked for many of people that I've worked with, the teams that I've worked with. Okay, at any point of time when I select my metrics, I keep these 4 points in mind. This is very simple, no rocket science here. Okay, if you stick to this, most important here is that, you know, the metric should be actionable. It should not be that you're collecting metrics and you're not able to act on it. Okay, if you are really looking to improve, is it giving you a framework to improve? Is something that you must question. Am I getting something out of this, or this is just plain numbers that I'm collecting at the end of the day? Okay, so keep that in mind and you'll be on your way.
Awesome. Thanks, Brijesh. Just one last question on the similar lines. How do you balance business-focused KPIs, example, delivery speed, with developer-focused metrics, example, code quality, to avoid creating a trade-off?
This is a good question, okay? And the reason why I say this is because you are sometimes thinking about your developer, you're sometimes thinking about, you know, how is my business doing? For me, it's always important, like I said a couple of times earlier as well, that for me, the business value, the business impact, and that is the reason why I put this as number one here in this framework as well. That for me should be the ideal starting point for my metrics. So if there has to be a trade-off, or if you arrive at a situation where there has to be a trade-off, I feel it has to be in favor of your business more. Now, obviously, you are talking about code quality. Now, you cannot compromise on code quality as well. That is the thing. But if you think that there is too much focus on code quality, so much that your business is getting impacted because of that, you're spending too much time to improve the quality of your code, then you're trying to solve a different set of problems as compared to your business, right? You should be solving the problems of your business first. And for that, if your code quality is a little poor, I would still live with it. Okay, because if your business suffers, think about it very closely. Okay, and I'm talking in terms of a very practical, I'm giving you a very practical example. if your business suffers, your job suffers, right? You may be the best coder producing the beautiful quality code, and you're doing an amazing job writing amazing code. But if your business is not benefiting from it, then you may be asked to leave. Okay, so and think about it from that perspective. So always favor business impact more than that when it comes to such a trade-off, is my opinion. I mean, there may be a different opinion. I would love to hear if there is a different one, and because that will be a learning for me as well. But this is what I feel, and this is what I have experienced.
Awesome. Thanks, Brijesh. It makes sense. I think there are no more questions. So as Brijesh mentioned, Brijesh is very active on social medias and love to share his thoughts and help me personally and others in the community as well. So feel free to reach out to him, get in touch if you have any questions in the implementation, or if you want to just catch up with Brijesh. And that brings us to the end of the session. And a huge thank you to Brijesh for sharing such a valuable insights.
I want to thank Lambda Test for giving me this opportunity to talk about such an important topic here first. I'm a part of the Lambda Test Spartans as well. So Lambda Test has created a framework, excellent framework through which it brings together so many wonderful professionals. So it is great interacting with all of you today. I can't thank Lambda Test enough for this opportunity. And Sparsh, he's been really special. I have worked with him so much on various other initiatives. Thank you so much, Sparsh, for being my host today. You are amazing as always. And I want to thank each one of you for joining in this discussion. I sincerely hope that you find this valuable. If you have any questions, please reach out to me without hesitation. I will be more than happy to help you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brijesh. I think that wraps up today's session. Stay tuned for the next session next month. Until then, keep exploring, keep testing, and keep innovating. Thank you and take care.